Welcome to Dracena Wines Podcast. Our wines plus your moments equals great memories. I'm your host, Lori, and this is a podcast about all things wine. Hey everyone, thanks for listening in this week. Today we have another Wine Writers Wrap-Up. We had a different topic planned for today, but in the light of what may be the biggest scandal in the wine industry since Rudy Kurniawan's wine hoax of 2013, I thought we'd change topics and discuss what has become known as the Somm Scandal. If you haven't heard, the Court of Master Sommeliers announced that they were stripping the titles of 23 candidates who passed the tasting portion of the exam and were granted entrance into the illustrious and almost mystical group. The announcement was made after it was found out that another Master Somm leaked what wines would be included in the tasting. Is this the end of the world? No, but it is a pretty big deal in the wine world. So join me, along with my fellow wine lovers, as we discuss the scandal, the penalties, and what this potentially can mean for the future of sommeliers. Hey everybody, welcome to this month's Wine Writers Wrap-Up. And we kind of changed the topic this month. It was supposed to be our wine's most embarrassing moments, but with the news that kind of came up in the last week or two, I decided we were going to change, and my lovely panel was more than generous in allowing me to change that on them. So before we actually get into the chat, I'm just going to let the panel introduce themselves. So I'm just going to go left to right on my screen. So, Jeff, you are up first.
Always starting with me. Hey, everybody, this is Jeff Eccles. I'm with the We Like Drinking podcast that you can catch every Friday, talking about wine, beer, spirits, all kinds of stuff. So check it out at welikedrinking.com or search for We Like Drinking on your favorite podcast catcher app.
All right. And next is Nicole.
Hi, Nicole Ruiz-Hudson from the Somm Scandal and Literally Gypsy are my two blogs, and I write in a few other places, but coming to you today from Oakland, California.
Thank you. And Michael?
Michael Kelly. I have a website, California Wines and Wineries, and I'm involved with doing various things, including brokering wine and judging wine contests, etc.
Awesome. And lastly, Tina.
Hello, everyone. It's Tina Mori from Wine Studio. It's a beverage education and grassroots marketing program held on Twitter every Tuesday night. And I am right now heading in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Lovely Virginia Beach.
Awesome. And I am your host, Lori, and my husband and I own Dracena Wines, a boutique winery in Paso Robles that we specialize in Cabernet Franc. And tonight, I couldn't pass up all of the news that was hitting the wine world this past couple of weeks, and we are talking about the Somm Scandal. And in this situation, the Masters of Sommelier class, there was this huge scandal. Cheating occurred. So we're going to just talk about our thoughts about this and what we think happened, and we'll go from wherever it go from there wherever it takes us. So my first question, actually, before we get into that, is really important. What is everybody drinking? So I'll go right to left. Tina.
I'm drinking a cocktail of my own creation.
Ooh.
It's a simple syrup of basil and jalapeno and, sugar and water with a little bit of tequila and some tonic water. Nice. So cheers.
Sounds
nice.
Awesome.
Yeah, it does.
And next, for some reason, and I can't figure it out technology-wise, Michael and Nicole switched spots. So
just to keep you on your toes.
Yeah. So Nicole, you're next.
Well, I had some Amontillado sherry hanging out in the fridge, so I decided to pour myself some of this. So, Principe de Barbadillo.
And Michael.
I'm drinking Governor's Bay Sauv Blanc from New Zealand, 2016.
And Jeff?
I am drinking Sancerre Rouge, the La Savane des Clos. So this is Pinot Noir from the Sancerre region of the Loire Valley of France.
Awesome. And I am drinking my very good friends Jean Edward Sellers Sauvignon Blanc from Napa. So as I said, I am wishing it was warmer weather already and sticking to some white tonight.
What you don't consider hoodies to be Sauvignon Blanc weather most of the time?
It was, I can deal with hoodies, but 35 degrees, man. It's October. Come on, people. Come on.
Too cold.
Way too cold. It's winter weather already. And I say it all the time. I have got the raw end of this deal with my husband, man. I am on the wrong coast all the time. I am in California when it's 105, and I'm in New Jersey when it's below 0. So I got to end this quickly.
Yeah, because it's 75 here today.
Oh, torture. I'd like to introduce you all to our sponsor. I think it's pretty obvious we are obsessed with dogs. We named our winery after our first Weimaraner, Draco, and rescued Vegas after we realized it was a house, but not a home, without a fur baby. We are proud to work with Nom Nom Now, who understands that a pet is not just a pet. They are a member of the family. Nom Nom Now was rated the #1 dog food delivery service by Reviews.com. All meals are delivered fresh, not frozen. There is always free delivery with weekly, bi-weekly, and monthly options available depending on location to the 48 contiguous states. And now, Nom Nom Now has a special limited time offer. Get 20% off your first order that includes samples of all of the recipes to make sure it is the right fit. Individually portioned meals are measured to suit your dog's caloric needs. Nom Nom Now offers 5 fresh dog recipes: pork, chicken, turkey, beef, and veggie, and 2 flavors of treats, beef and chicken. They even provide discounts for multi-dog households. If you love your dog as much as we do, why not show them with 100% designed and dedicated fresh dog food that is hand-prepared in their kitchen that meets all FDA requirements. So to find out more about Nom Nom Now and to get your 20% off your first order, head to rebrand.ly/Dracaena Nom Nom Now. That's rebrand.ly/Dracaena Nom Nom Now. And by the way, they also have plans for cats. All right, so let's get into the little scandal here. There were 23 Master Sommeliers that were stripped of their diplomas. The first thing that hit me was, oh my God, if that was me, So what do you guys think if it was you? Like, what would you do? How would you feel?
Well, kind of like you, my first thought was, I think it would have broken me, because like I have not gotten to this level of certification, but even the certification levels that I've done, they're so all-consuming that to have spent so many years and blood, sweat, and tears on something like this, and then have it stripped from you, I think it would be hard to bounce back.
Yeah.
Like, I honestly think you would go through, the 7 stages of grief with this thing. I mean, I think, like, I feel I would have launched into fury, like, immediately, unless I partook in some of the help that was provided, but I'm guessing majority of them did not. And so my blood would be boiling. I really do think that this is going to be a grief situation for them that they're going to have to work through, because, and I've even heard some of them are like, I'm done. Yeah. I'm not taking it again, because it's a lose-lose for them. If they do take it again and they don't pass, then everybody's going to have this, they feel like they're going to have this wandering eye. But I mean, really, I think most of us are like, that test is so hard that there's some current masters that probably couldn't make it out of it if they took it again. So, But I think that would be my first reaction, would be overarching fury.
Yeah.
So do we know the facts? Do we know the facts of what really transpired?
So before you came on, before we were live, I was researching. I was telling them I was researching today, and I did find information that supposedly confirms how it was cheating. And that's a little later. I'll talk about it. I'll talk about it later. But I know that my Irish blood would be, I would be fuming, man. Hell hath no fury of an Irish woman scorn, man. I would, and I think that I would say, forget it. I'm done. Because I agree with you, Jeff. You go through all of this and you pass the emotional, roller coaster, you pass, you're like, whatever. And it's not a test that you study a week ahead of time for.
Right.
These people have dedicated years of their lives to it, and they can't just say, all right, well, I'll let it go and I'll take it next year. They're still going to have to continue to study for an additional year to take that test again. And I agree. If they don't pass, I think the people are going to say, "Oh, you were the cheater," But
and I don't remember when. Do you have the date that the test that they took the exam or they took the tasting?
I don't have the date they took it. No.
I think it was September or something like that.
It was.
I was thinking it was like August or September, and they were most likely practicing their blind tasting, if not daily, weekly, all up until that, and then they stopped once they passed, and so their palate. I mean, they got to, like you said, it's another year of their lives to go try and do this again.
So it was somewhere in later, like the third week of September, because I will bring up what later on. But the individual will reveal his name later. The individual wrote a blog on September 26th that congratulates his people.
There you go.
So I don't know how quickly he wrote that blog, but
right.
It was right around then.
Okay.
Also, to your point, too, people, as we were mentioning, I don't think people realize just how hard this exam is, and you can easily have an off day, and
right.
Be on one day, and then of course the stars just don't align next time, and easily fail. And it's not because you're any less of a taster; it's just you're just having an off day. And then, and in addition to all the time that people put in to pass this, the other thing you have to factor in is how much money you spend on bottles. To you're saying, you have to be practicing all the time. And you have to be practicing with pretty quality, examples. So the amount of money that is spent in practicing is insane. So
right.
you can't really account for that.
Right. Now, one of the things that they had said, which I was going to ask your opinion on, is so the court has said we are going to refund your testing fee. We are going to pay or help pay for your transportation to the next test, and we're not going to charge you for the next test. But as you brought up, Nicole, what about all that wine? All of that wine that they purchased and they worked on, that's nowhere, that's not refundable. Plus the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So to that point, I know many of you probably know Christy Norman. She's a sommelier at Spago in Hollywood, and she's got a pretty good following on Instagram. But she has set up she's worked with people to set up a support system, if you will, for the MS candidates that are tasting it again.
Oh.
So I'll put it in the chat here, but it's thankfulregistry.com /support MS candidates. And so you can do a monetary donation here, but they're also, which I think is really cool, they're taking bottle donations as well. And they've even gone so far as to set up donation centers in every city that one of the candidates is in. So if there's a candidate in Austin, they found somewhere in Austin where if you've got a bottle of Burgundy that you want to donate, that you can go to this location and drop off a bottle for these Master Somms.
Wow.
So far, Wasserman Imports sent a Burgundy care package in for all of them. Young's, the place that employed the master who leaked it, is doing something. Kendall Jackson has brought up that they're going to be making an influx into this. There's some other big names that are lending a supporting hand as well. So if any of you are listening to this and you're wishing there was something you could do, this is a great thing they've got set up. They've got specific bottles you can donate. They've got monetary. You just go in there, you click it. I even think they have capsules for the wine, the Coravin. Yeah, the Coravin for the tubes. So really cool thing that Christy set up. And so if you're interested in helping the people out, it's a great way to do it. And again, that's thankfulregistry.com/MS support or support MS candidates.
And I will put that into the show notes for the podcast also, because that is fantastic. That is fantastic.
I don't think it's as bad. The tasting portion, I think you can take it in another 6 months and still do perfectly fine, because you've got tasting memory, as opposed to like the theory, where the theory stuff you lose because it's all memorization. But when you're tasting your palate, you always have a palate memory. Always. That doesn't go away.
I don't know. I feel like I've fallen out of practice with wine tasting. So, like, if you, any of the exams that I've taken, if you were to test me tomorrow, I don't necessarily know you that well on the wine tasting.
When was the last time you studied like they've been studying, though? You know what I mean? They study like every day, and they're still gonna study almost every day. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I think that if they're going 6 to 7 months after, I mean, I think at a base level they probably keep a lot of it, but to get to the nuance that you do, especially at the master level, you know, as far down as you have to go to vintage and location and everything else, I think that's a muscle memory, and like any muscle memory, you lose it if you don't work it out.
Okay. Now, they did say that they were researching in order to do a non-scheduled tasting later in 2018. So there's not too much of 2018 left. So, that I think would be very nice of them to do. But otherwise, they have to wait till the 2019 testing.
I think, honestly, I understand why the court handled it the way they did, whether, you know, I think it's arguable whether they should have wiped everybody's diploma or not, but I think really they should be allowed at least two chances, because, like I said, you can, plus, like, I think if you pass and then you have this, like, taken away from you, I think that trauma would actually definitely influence your tasting ability the next time too. Like, I think it's because it's all a head game.
Right.
Too.
Oh yeah.
Well, speaking about head game, I think the worst thing that can happen is knowing the wines. Because I'm sorry, that's a total mind fuck if you know the wines going into it, if that's exactly what happened. Because then you're thinking, okay, this wine is this, and this, and it's impossible to do because it's verbal. You can't, there's no time to think. So you have to rely on your process. If you know the wine's ahead, you're completely screwed up.
I'm sorry. What's going on in there, Nicole?
I'm so sorry. My sherry bottle just like popped its top for some.
I don't know.
So Lori, I'm really interested to hear the information you have on how because that's the thing I think a lot of us are missing is what actually took place. When I first heard about this, I was like, I understand their position to strip everybody away, but if they're, you know, as it's gone on and as I thought about it more, you know, I'm really like, how much of an investigation did they do to this to try to isolate who had this information. Because if it was like one person and they could isolate that one person, then take the appropriate information there. But now if it's some way that there's literally no way they have of knowing, then, I guess I see the point of it, but we really haven't had the information. So if it's something's come out today, I would really be interested to hear it.
So we can, I'll jump ahead and we can backtrack. So what I read today was that a member of the board, and this is, I just copied and pasted from the article, a member of the board, which is the very same governing body that made the decision, sent an email to a few select candidates of the tasting portion of the exam with the subject line, heads up, with releasing the initials of the varietals within the flight. They did like CF so that the people would know that it's a Cab Franc. Or they did,
Of all the wines in the flight?
They said two of the varietals within the flight. And then further discussion in the article was saying how, there's certain varietals that are extremely confusing, and by getting those initials really helps them.
Mm-hmm.
So.
But what happened to the guy that leaked the information? He should be.
Oh, he's gone. He's gone.
Yeah, he's out.
Yeah.
He's gone.
So, this brings up to me, honestly, the biggest red flag of all of this. So there are Master Somms that coach candidates, right, that are going to take the test. And this is a huge thing on the Court of Master Sommeliers. How in the world is it okay for a board member that's going to be proctoring this exam to not recuse themselves if they have people that have been training underneath them taking this exam? That should be like no questions asked. If you have people that you've been training, they're going to be sitting in this exam, you cannot give the exam.
He didn't give the exam.
He was on the
board.
Tasting.
Mm-hmm.
He was actually there for the tasting?
He was on the board.
Yeah, he proctored. And I totally agree with you that, I think if you are, the court had, places a lot of emphasis on, paying it forward and the idea of mentorship. However, I completely agree with you that if you have students that are training with you, you shouldn't be proctoring the exam. I think probably it has to do with the fact that in addition to being a Master Somm, you have to take additional, a multi-year training, I believe, to become so there are probably very few Master Somms that can do it, but nonetheless, I think that's just a conflict of interest.
It completely is. It just opens the door for corruption. And so if you in any way know the wines that are being poured, you should not be, if you have students, you should not know what wines are being poured.
Right. So, and as you said, they do the pay it forward thing, but if you can have, for this testing, you can have a situation where I don't have any mentees, right? And then I can be part of giving the test.
Yeah.
But if I am a mentor to anybody, then I should not be allowed in that board. I should not be allowed to know what is being poured. I agree.
I think Tina disagrees.
Yeah, Tina, you don't...
No, not necessarily. I think there's a larger picture here. What we're talking about right now is such a small part of the entirety. The big thing that people have, the big issue that people have with the court is that it's very exclusive. And they think the members think they're above everybody else, blah, blah, blah. And also it's, sorry, the dog needs to go out. It's more about not so much mentors, but those who are in positions to put newly minted Master Somms in jobs of influence. That's kind of really the bigger picture that they're talking about, that the problem is. A lot of the importers have Master Somms there. And it looks good for them, and it looks good for the company that they get as many Master Somms as possible, and then that's more money for the company. You know, they put a Master Somm here, a Master Somm there, so that's the issue. So that's the bigger issue here. I'm trying to think of other certifications in the world or whatever that the same thing can happen. I mean, this has got to happen in other jobs, right? Why are we making such a big deal of this? How do we know this hasn't happened before? I mean, I don't understand why the big deal. I mean, it happens. Shit happens. People are human. You know, it's terrible. I think it's terrible that those 23 had to be caught in the middle of it. I would imagine I wouldn't want to know anything because, like I said, knowing wine is a complete mindfuck. It screws up everything. Knowing that stuff, I wouldn't want to know at all. But I think that the point is too that somebody, one of the classmates, one of the kids, I guess the kids, one of the study persons, whatever, one of the candidates, knew, and he blew the whistle. That was one person who did it, and who felt bad, and he spoke to a lawyer, and this and that. So
right.
It's gotten so blown out of proportion. It's ridiculous. And it's just a shame for the candidates who now have to deal with this all over again. And, you know, a lot of them, it's like becoming a doctor or this and that. It's like the same thing. It's horrible. But people do stupid shit all the time. Yep. You know, I don't understand why, like, okay, this is not brain surgery. Then nobody's saving lives here. Mm. But, again.
So that is true. It came to the light of the court by a lawyer's letter.
Right.
So that, and the lawyer's letter stated that the varietals were released, and it is believed that, and this is what I don't get, and this is why I am frustrated with it, and I don't think, I agree it's blown up, but I'm more upset for the 22 people, because there were 23 who passed. So I'm more upset for the 22 people who are caught in the middle. And that's really where I think the conversation is. This guy, his name was released. It's Reggie Narito Jr. And
I know Jerry. Yeah, he was one of my mentors.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah, he's a great guy.
He made a mistake, right? Right?
I just want to say, though, that it actually doesn't affect just the 23 people that were stripped. It affects everybody that sat that test and passed. So, like, you can pass this exam in parts.
Right.
And more people passed that section this time around. I believe it's in the neighborhood of 50 that now have to retake that portion. So, I'm just saying.
Oh, so those 23 people, were just the people who took it and that was the third portion that they passed?
Yeah.
Oh.
Right. Those were the 23 people that were actually had completed their
the whole
master's, the 3 parts, but other people passed that. So, like, I think somewhere in the vicinity of 50 had passed that portion.
That portion.
The tasting portion? Oh, I didn't know. I thought it was only 24.
24
completed their Master Somm.
Oh, okay.
And there is one person who did not get his title stripped.
Right.
Sorry, his name was Morgan. He had passed that section previously.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
So
50 people. That's a huge number that passed the tasting portion.
That also rose a red flag.
Yeah.
A sort of record year.
Yeah, so I'm going to ask this question because I have this also. There are only 274 Master Somms since 1969. Yet 24 actually passed their whole test this year. So I kind of scanned through previous years, and the average of people passing, getting their the master is 6 per year.
Mm-hmm.
So this is huge. The second largest year to this year was in 2011 that 12 people passed. So it is a lot of people. I mean, and this is where I'm like, these poor people, if they were legit, they passed it on their own. It doesn't matter. They have that asterisk. They have that asterisk next to their name,
What's the percentage of what's the percentage of people who were, like in 2007 or 11 that you mentioned, what was the total number of people who went for their masters, and compared to today? I think it's a lot more today.
Right.
And I think the Somm movies has a lot to do with that. All of a sudden, the Somm world is great again. Way back when, I don't know what year it was, but we were the evil under everyone's shoes. So when fine dining kind of tanked, so it ebbs and flows. So
right.
Is it a high amount? Sure, but is it unreasonable? I don't know.
I don't remember what it was proportionally, but that was mentioned to me that proportionally it's not crazy. So it's not, when you look at it as a percentage of the number of people taking it, it wasn't as seemingly out of whack as it seems. But I can't remember the numbers.
That's the problem with stats, is you can kind of make it say whatever you want it to say.
Take it out of context.
So I didn't see anywhere that said how many people were taking the test. I just saw that, I was doing a count. They just have a list of all of the people and what year they got it. So I was just counting. But I did find that it's a 92% failure rate.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that for a second. That 92% failure rate for a Master Sommelier versus, a brain surgeon or so. It's just crazy. It's just crazy to me, and I find it very silly. Even though I went through the court system, I just find it really silly. It sounds awful, but as an educator, if I gave a test and it said, I look at the results of my questions and 92% of my students got that wrong, or 92% of my students failed, first of all, I would have every parent on the face of the earth yelling at me. But beyond that, I would have to say, all right, I think this needs to be looked at. This needs to be. I get that these people who are Master Somms are the elite of the elite, but 92% failure rate. That's worse than professional athletes. Like, that's, the number of people going into professional athlete is like 6%, I think. So it's almost like becoming a professional athlete. So I don't.
But that goes back to the exclusivity, right? That we were talking about. They're building it with that in mind, right? They are making sure that the entrance door is very small.
Yeah, I remember taking the introductory exam, and I'm like, oh my god, this is a piece of cake. And then I took their certified. I was like, oh shit, what happened? Holy crap! I remember sitting and the wines are in front of me, and I'm like, holy crap. Yeah, I can't imagine the advance and then this, but then again, like Jeff said, that's part of the enigma. It's part of the club, the exclusivity.
I actually have less of a problem with, with that top tier. What I do find troubling is, or perhaps that I think should be looked at again, is the fact that nobody releases any information about what went into a score. Or why somebody passed or why somebody didn't.
Yeah.
You never see. You never get to see what you did wrong or did right.
Right.
And I think that does also raise questions about who I don't know. There are gatekeepers winelovers here, and what standard are they being held to?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's what's being held in question now. All of that.
So Tina, you went through it, and I mean, like I said, I didn't go through any of these programs. So when you're taking that tasting portion of it, right? I've seen the show, and they're on it, and they've got somebody sitting there who's judging them, and they're checking off things. How do you know what you're supposed to be I guess I have a problem with as a winemaker, and when somebody tastes my wine, in my head, on my palate, I know what this wine tastes like to me. But that doesn't mean, I could be tasting chocolate and you're not. I could be tasting anise and you're not. And that, I guess, that's what I have a problem with watching them check these things off, is your palate is different than the person who's checking things off. So how in these programs, training in these programs, do they counter that?
Sure. So when you said, you taste a wine and I taste a wine, and we can be getting different answers from it, which is subjectivity, right?
Right.
The subjectivity, especially when you're talking about the Master Sommelier portion, subjectivity is like that. Seriously, it's that. And that's why they're tasting, I think one guy said he tasted like $7,000 worth of wine in a 6-month period. That's why you're tasting so many wines. You're getting a base of what each variety should taste like. And then each variety from different parts of the world. And then vintages and all that. So you're painting a picture for each variety. And again, that subjectivity is very small.
And for the purposes of the exam, they keep it extremely classic. So, you're you're operating in a much narrower margin than the entire world of wine. That said, too, I think a lot of the times, you could have I could say red cherry, and you could say black cherry or raspberry or blackberry, but there's they're looking for camps of fruit, and then and even a lot of times I think with spice categories, I could say clove or nutmeg, and you might say cinnamon, but
the same thing. Yeah.
Oh, so that's acceptable.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And it doesn't matter which one you go through, if you go through WSET or SWE or through the Somm program, they all have a tasting sheet that they give you. Yeah. And, and you're going to speak to its clarity and if it's star bright, and so they've all has this vocabulary that they're working off. And that's why when you watch Somm or you listen to them, they're very mechanical in how they're doing it, because they're just walking through this checklist of all the things that they're looking for. And I don't know, Tina, if you know, but when you take the second level Somm, the certified Somm, I think there's 8 varieties in white and red that they can pull from. And they're the classic 8. And I don't know if that goes all the way up to the Master Somm exam. Is it still the same 8 on white and red?
I think it widens a bit.
I think I thought it did. So it branches out. So yeah, Lori, there is a bit of a formulation to it, and that's also part of the exclusivity too, right? Is you need to have somebody that's been through the horse race that can kind of train you on, here's the things you're looking for. This is what this is anise. This isn't, blah blah blah.
Yeah. And a lot of times, because we as tasters, people that love wine, we can get very creative with our tasting notes. Here, in these exams, you're told a vocabulary that and even within that, there's a little bit of wiggle room. You're looking for red fruits versus black fruits. Maybe the specific one isn't quite as necessary, or where I was saying with the spices. That's probably leading towards the fact that you recognize there's oak in the wine, as opposed to picking which spice. In most cases, you're tasting certain spices. Black pepper would be indicative of certain things, but in general,
right.
Right. Well, it's not as difficult as it sounds when you know the process.
So I have the WSET level 3. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And this is here's a question. So on the back of this, right, you go to aroma characteristics and it says, floral. And then there's like 8 things. So if I'm in the testing aspect, I'm only expected to say one of those 8 things if it's there. So like for citrus fruit, it says grapefruit, lemon, lime, juice or zest, orange peel, lemon peel.
Well, again, I don't know how they do the points. Nobody knows. Nobody knows
Right.
how they, right? So for anything, they don't reveal that. But for the most part, yes, it's fairly straightforward. You're looking for particular markers for each variety from each particular region that the wine is from. Yes.
Oh, okay. So I'm not expecting.
The West goes into things a heck of a lot more than the court does. It's a little different, right, Nicole? Yeah, if I remember, but yeah.
But I mean, yes, but they will. They still sort of they're operating in the same universe.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So I just because I have this sheet. They gave it to us at the Wine Bloggers Conference 2 years ago, I guess now. And I just was always curious because sometimes I'm tasting things that are not on this sheet, and I'm like, well, why are they only listing these things? So if I was going through the program, I'm basically just looking for these things.
Or you're kind of trained to give those descriptors, whatever else you might be tasting. You
keep it to yourself.
Okay.
Don't even go there. Trust me.
Okay.
Don't bring yourself to a world of hurt. Trust me.
and that goes back all to the vocabulary. It's the way to communicate back and forth about what you're tasting. So.
Just to keep it all on an even playing field for the most part. Yeah.
Okay. So
all those esoteric terms that a lot of wine writers and whatever they're like, what? Okay, yeah, but.
All right. That's I sit there and when I do the notes, I'm like, all right. So it's a green apple, and yet I've been around people who can tell me I don't even know other green apple. It's this green apple from this state and this, whatever. We don't need to do that if you're taking this class, if you're going through this program. All right. Well, that makes me feel a lot better.
They only have 25 minutes for wines, I think. So you gotta cut it.
Yeah, I think is it 25 minutes for the.
It's all verbal. It's all verbal too.
Right.
You gotta talk it. Even the theory is verbal too. There's nothing written.
Oh, really? Wow.
Can you imagine? And then the service, you get a new asshole ripped. When you really do,
it's so hard.
It's so, oh my
God. There was a show. I don't think that it's on anymore, but there was a show called Uncorked. Did anybody right? And I was watching that. And I don't know any of their names because I really didn't. I watched it, but I didn't really get, into it. This one poor guy, man. Exactly. He got ripped a new one every single time he poured. Like he was pouring wine, and I actually before this I never even paid attention. If you're a somm, you're supposed to pour equal to everybody around and be able to get a full bottle poured out. I'm like, really? And he got ripped because he gave like this much more to one guy than he can to the other. I'm like, oh, come on. As a customer, I would never even like notice that.
Yeah, and this is, this I think is open. This is an ongoing debate right now, like whether you really need that level of service for most occasions, but they're operating on what they assume is going to be the highest level of service.
Right.
Sure. Like we were discussing before, I decided to switch because I never intended to work in that.
I really like the service portion because it really prepares you to deal with the public. It's just especially one-on-one, and just because people can be difficult, or you're spending
service portion at the certified level was was great to have in the background. Like also like the proper training of opening a sparkling bottle of wine. You know, because I think there's a lot of safety that goes into that a lot of people take for granted when uncorking something sparkling. So like I was really happy to have that level of training, but you know, beyond that, I don't.
For you, right?
I think they're just instilling confidence. I really do. A lot of that you don't need, but you never know. So it's better to have it under your belt than not, I think. I don't know.
Yeah. So on the show, they, you know, they are showing the table, and I don't know if the people were, you know, wine famous people or whatever at the table, or you know, if they were other Master Somms or whatever. But they were showing training. It was a, I guess, a sample test or a practice test. And they were at the table like, all right, we're going to make sure this occurs. And we're going to, like, so they purposely were being, you know, asses
absolutely.
To, I think, like you were saying, Tina, so that you have it under your belt and you realize, well, if I can handle these people, I can handle these people. But yeah, he got ripped apart, you know, for things that I don't think, whatever. And, I know I wouldn't be good at that because again, you know, so if I'm, that's why I've probably never been a waitress or whatever, because I just would never put up with that. And I'd be fired on day one for telling a customer off.
Something I think every single person should go through, though. Everybody should serve food at some point in their life.
I mean, talk about humility, though. You know, everybody says that Somms they're conceited and this and that, and granted, some are. But think about what you just said and what you had to go through, and just I mean, you were just beaten down, but there's a humility aspect to it. I don't know. There's a humbleness to it too.
I totally agree. No, and I know there are quite a few songs that are really wonderful, humble people.
Yeah.
You know,
I think that's the case of a few bad seeds spoil. You know, there are some Somms who are, you know, snooty and nose up in the air, but I think that they are completely outnumbered by people who are, you know, Somms who are down to earth and are there for the passion. They're there for the love. They're, you know.
But that's. I mean, let's be honest. That's throughout the wine world, right?
That's throughout the world.
Yeah, I mean, we run into it all the time with wine people, and honestly with craft beer people as well. But there's people out there that are snooty about it. I mean, there isn't the term wine stop for nothing. I mean, they're out there. So, I mean, it's not something that's exclusive just to a few sommeliers. I mean, there's wine writers. There's people that have they're not in the industry at all, and they look down on anybody that's drinking white Zin or whatever. You know, I mean,
putting ice in there. Yeah.
Putting ice. Yeah.
And now a word from our sponsor. Hey everyone, I want to share with you a new way to make your meals and save money. The Dinner Daily makes delicious dinners easy and affordable for busy families and couples with their customized weekly dinner menus based on your local store sales. Choose the foods you like, select your menu size, and tell them where you shop. You'll then get personalized meal plan based on your preferences and your dietary needs. And they check out your store's weekly specials, saving you up to $1,200 a year. Each week, you'll receive your customized meal plan for 5 great dinners and the shopping list, making it easy for you to get all the ingredients in one shopping trip. The recipes and lists are created by checking your local store specials, allowing you to truly save money on groceries. If you don't like a recipe, you can easily switch anything on your menu. Use your store's online shopping and delivery service, or use their one-click ordering for Peapod to save even more time. So use my link, rebrand.ly/Dracaena Dinner Daily to try the Dinner Daily for 2 weeks at no charge, and you can cancel at any time. That's rebrand.ly/Dracaena Dinner Daily to save time, save money, and yeah, save your sanity. And now back to our discussion about the Somm Scandal. So just as a little sidebar, the salary of a just basic, not to use the word basic, Somm is $87,000 a year. What do you think the average for a Master Somm is?
It doubles, doesn't it?
It's almost doubled, yeah, or at least
It
doubled.
is. It's doubled. $164,000 a year to be a Master Somm. So that studying does kind of. I mean, I've got 2 master's degrees and I'm not making. I mean, that's a lot of money. And I guess at that level, Tina, you probably know the best. Like, what? I mean, do you think that's? Are they parallel for what they're getting for what they're paying? The company that's paying them?
At the Master Somm level, and having known quite a few, and I'm sure Nicole can speak to this as well, but they work incredible hours. They're like doctor hours, even worse. You're on your feet, how many hours a day? 14, 15 hours a day. It's insanity, depending upon the job, right? It all depends. I mean, if you can get a sweet gig like at an importer or like Young's Market Company or something like that, that's a sweet gig. But if you're still on the restaurant floor, that's rough. It's rough work. It really is. Does it command $160,000, $180,000? Hell if I know. I don't know. I don't make that. I don't know. And I don't care to know because that's.
Nicole, your thoughts?
I mean, I think a lot of people, I came to wine a little later, so I never worked in a fine dining arena. I work at a shop/bar now, and even the very short hours I work at a very, comparatively extremely chill. Because you still, you're still on your feet, and that's taxing. So I can only imagine what it's like in an actual restaurant where you're carrying trays and bussing, et cetera. I don't know if it's worth as much, like Tina, I don't know what I think it commands. I think it's extremely taxing.
Yeah.
And I mean, the market bears what the market bears, right? I mean, and as at the master level, really, I mean, if you're talking about a master sommelier, I don't know how many of them actually still work the floor. I think a lot of them are in higher level management, positions where they're making decisions, they're making executive kind of decisions and working at an executive type level in whatever they're doing. So, I mean, if that's what people are willing to pay, then yes, it's an appropriate amount. I mean,
here's my question, and then really what I guess I didn't ask my question well enough. So you guys all know me. I don't eat. I mean, my dinner tonight was a lean pocket, and I was very happy with that. So I am not a person who goes to a restaurant and is expecting a Master Somm service, because although I would love the wine that they're serving me, there is going to be absolutely nothing that's on that menu for me to eat. My brother just called me up. We're going to Vegas next week, and he's like, we're going to this restaurant. Please check the menu to see if there's absolutely anything on here that you can eat. And I checked the menu, and no, there's not. It's like, well, I'll have the salad, but I'll just have I won't have that dressing, whatever. Okay. So I'm not expecting that. So I'm not familiar with a Somm coming to my table and doing a job, doing something like that. But what I was trying to get at was, if as Jeff was saying, if that's what the market is, then that's what the market is. But my question is, if they're paying a Somm $167,000, what is the company who's paying them return on investment? Like, I guess that's where I was going. Like, if the company can pay $167,000, they must be making $300,000 off of this person's abilities.
Well, and let's be honest, there's been, what'd you say, 274 since 1969?
Right.
Okay, so you're talking about that company gets to say, we have 5 master sommeliers working for our company. Look at how good our company must be, right? So there's an immediate return on investment just by having that title. And we could get into a whole other discussion about, the validity of that piece of it. But just having that person with that title working for your company is already giving you a return, right? It's like saying, hey, we have LeBron James as a spokesperson for our company, right? Just having that, we have Tim Geyser, we have this master sommelier that works for our company on there, automatically is giving you a return on investment. So yeah, I think for those companies, it definitely is going to pay off.
Well, I've got two quick points here because we're getting close to time. I used to go to a lot of 3-star Michelin restaurants around the world, and I was in London once, and the sommelier didn't understand what I was really trying to get to, so they brought in the master sommelier. We started having a discussion, and he flips the book open and gives me 2, says these are the 2 I would recommend based upon what you described to me. And one was like $18,000 for the bottle, and the other was $24,000 for the bottle. And I looked at him, I said, I think we have a misunderstanding. And he says, he was French, but it was in London. He goes, well, monsieur, why is that? And I said, well, I didn't want to become a part owner. I just wanted a nice bottle of wine. and so I don't think the Master Somm, whether he was arrogant, not arrogant, it really wasn't the question. The question is, was he trying to take care of the customer, me, or was he trying to inflate the bill for the restaurant? And I felt it was the latter, not the former. So I was not too impressed on that particular Master Somm, and I've had other Master Somms over the years. But I just thought that was an interesting conversation.
I think a whole other question about, that I think should be brought up in these cases as well is, what is good service? And I think in that case, that wasn't good service.
No. I mean, that should be a basic question, right? I mean, what are you looking to spend is not an unfair question to ask.
Right. So we settled for some measly $900 bottle of wine that he that was okay. But, I think he was mortified that I stooped that low. But their question I wanted to just kind of throw out there is the other 20, and again, I don't know how the process is, but to me, the other 22 who didn't come forward, who were tipped off, and this is what that we're not, because 23 people got the information. No? How many people?
4 or 5.
Okay, so, but why, so my question is, those 4 or 5, what does that say about their ethical morality stance?
Right.
Even if they go back and pass it the next time.
Well, that's another question. Should they be allowed to take the test again? If it's been proven, and this goes back to Tina, what you were saying about, is there actually any proof of who physically actually got it and who didn't? There's no true proof as of now. If it's proven that Joe got the things, should he be allowed to take it? Because the person who leaked it is no longer associated. If you've accepted it, should you be allowed a second chance? But
and I'll kind of go back to what Tina said early on, and we had a bit of a discussion on this on our show, and what Jeff kind of talked. I guess that was the after party, so never mind. But when you're talking about if I go in here and I nail these 8 wines, I'm going to double my salary. that's a really big incentive that if somebody sends you an email that has some little codes in it, how do you, I mean,
it's tough.
That's tough. I mean, it's tough. If it's become so big that becoming a master sommelier is worth that much, I don't know how you can expect some people don't take advantage of a situation that's provided to them.
Or even like another perspective, perhaps, like if, let's say, you didn't ask for the information and it shows up, and let's say
you open an email.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You know, I think there's I've thought about this a little bit as well. It's like, you know, well, the person that turned everybody in, I understand completely, like, feeling guilty. They also took down all these other people with them.
Right.
And I could absolutely see not wanting to do that to your peers. And, like, so I don't know. I think it's easy to point fingers, but I think you could look at it from multiple different facets.
Yeah, I mean, everybody kind of think to yourself, there's an email in your inbox that's worth, say, $500,000. Do you click on it?
Right. Well, here's the thing. According to the letter, the subject matter was heads up.
Mm-hmm.
How many people would not, from somebody that you know, right? So we're not talking some mystery, email, who wouldn't click to open that email? And then no matter what your reasoning, whatever, you now see it. You can't take away what you see.
But frankly, I think the only known here is how the court responded. And frankly, I think their response was indicative of what they've become.
Okay.
And their exclusivity. I think that they should not have stripped them of their titles. I think they probably should have reprimanded, if it was Reggie or not or whatever. They maybe should have figured out how this can't happen the next time. This doesn't happen again, blah, blah. But their response, I thought, was blatantly wrong because they had the upper hand on everything. And,
right.
and I think they chose to handle it poorly. I really do.
So,
return on investment, that's a great question. I like that.
Oh.
Yeah, that was really good. I think it depends upon the person, each person. I really do. Because somebody can be a master somm but not really do much with it,
right?
Or you can do a lot with it,
right?
So which is, and it depends on the restaurant. What do they want?
Right.
Yeah, that's subjective, I think.
Right. And to Jeff, I think there's some people are in it to get the money. And some people are in it because, hey, I did this, like,
yeah, absolutely.
And the things, I mean, it's a different level, but, I think that for me personally, and I tell my kids this all the time, if you cheated, you didn't achieve it. So, yeah, you have that trophy, but in your brain, you don't deserve it. And for me, I don't want a trophy that I didn't deserve. Just that's our society of everybody gets a trophy. I want a trophy that I win.
Yeah. Well, I feel you.
And I think I don't know. Well, maybe there is a culture. I don't know. In general, I've kind of heard people acting more honestly within the court, but if this is something that was going on, I suppose I can understand more. But it seems to me that this was not worth sharing from the point of view of the master somm that shared the information. I just don't see how how it makes sense, how any of it was worth it to put your entire livelihood in jeopardy.
And that goes back to what I was talking about earlier of he had the individual had an emotional investment in these folks, right? And so potentially made a mistake that he's like, why did I do that? So.
And on a paper trail, sorry.
Right.
With a paper trail.
I just And that,
that's silly, right?
yeah.
So was that cheating? Is it? I mean, what's cheating? Is that? I don't know. Is that within the purview that he can do that? That they can do that? I don't know. Who knows?
Right.
I mean, obviously not, right? I mean, if
Well,
they stripped him of his title,
as of now, it's not. But
they stripped him. I mean, because this came out, because there's a lawyer involved in this and that. It begs the question: if that didn't happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And who's to say that this hasn't happened in the past?
Exactly.
I mean, there's no way anybody can say that, right? And
all that we know is that it was found out this time.
Yeah. Hand in the cookie jar with a camera, right?
Right.
I mean,
but that will be my my last question is what so this could be this whole thing is out of control. What is the supposed person, right? Why? What does he get out of it? What's people don't do things unless there's a something to grab at the end of it.
Well, it could have been that he needed to get more folks for his company. I mean, that looks better for them, for Youngs, if they have a certain amount of Master Somms. And he could say, oh, yeah, I mentored these particular 4 or 5, whatever, and that could be more money for him.
Now, those, of course, or theoretically, then those songs have a, have a debt to pay.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, for sure.
And there's all kinds of incentives that we could come up with for it, right? I mean, there's plenty, Yeah.
Pizza on Fridays, I don't know.
raising his stock at being able to train Master Sommeliers, getting him into his bringing them into the company he works for. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons. Again, this is why I was like, why would they allow this situation to occur? This should be a recusing situation.
So I just have because again, in my opinion, in my thought process, mentoring is free. Are you paying a mentor?
Not usually, no.
Right. So there's not like, ooh, I got 4 people to pass, so now pay me more money.
Who knows what? We don't know.
Who knows? Yep.
Part of it. That could have been part of it. He, just like a bonus.
Oh.
Who knows? I don't know. He's such a nice guy. It's just weird.
See, there's the thing though. Being a nice guy and making one dumb decision doesn't make him not a nice guy.
True.
Yeah.
Very true. That's very true.
It's a bad decision to do something in one moment of his. I don't know how old he is. Whatever his life is, I'm sure we can all think back, and that will lead into next month's episode of embarrassing moments. We've all done something that we probably regret at some point in our lives, and that doesn't mean that you're not a good person anymore. And you know him. That doesn't mean he's a bad person. It just means he made a bad mistake. He didn't think something all the way through. That's how I see it anyway. I try not to hold one stupid decision against a person's entire life. But
unfortunately, that mistake has now touched how many other lives, and it's just kind of got a little crazy. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, we are a little bit over. So are we ready for our riddle?
Uh-oh.
So I'm not even going to tell you my whole backstory of how I came up with this riddle, but here's the riddle. Okay. All right. 2 people planned to elope. They agreed to meet at the tree where they picnicked on their first date. The day they were to meet, one of them realized they couldn't go through with it because they loved someone else. The second arrived at the tree, excited to start their new lives together, but only found a fruit. This fruit told them all they needed to know, that their other would not show up. What is the fruit?
Passion.
An apple?
Yeah. It's a long riddle. I apologize for that. The whole, I'll let you know it's all in the first sentence. Two people plan to elope. They agree to meet at the tree where they picnicked for their first date. The day they were to meet, one of them realized they couldn't go through with it as they truly loved someone else. The second arrived at the tree, excited to start their lives, but only found a fruit. The fruit told them all they needed to know. The other wasn't showing up. What is the fruit?
Michael's got it.
What is it, Michael?
Cantaloupe.
Cantaloupe!
Oh my God. So are you coming up with these yourself?
No.
He sent me a clue earlier.
Yeah. No, I looked them up and under how much I love the We Like Drinking podcast, Jeff always tries to find something that relates to the guests or to the topic or whatever. So I always try to find something that relates to it. So I was looking up cheating, but the only thing that ever came up was like sexual cheating. And they were really bad. They were like I can't say these things, you know. And so I was hunting, and actually the girl who shares the office with me, I had a different riddle, which I now will use next week. She was like, oh, I heard a riddle that deals with spouses cheating. So I kind of reworded it a little. That wasn't spouses cheating, but kind of whatever. So she gave it to me. I don't know where she heard it, but no. I Google. Google is my world. Anyway, so thank you very much for joining. And it was I think it was an interesting topic, and I think we discussed quite a bit of intriguing concepts. But we are at the time to wrap up. So you get like 1 minute to tell us what's going on with your life. Tell people how they can follow you on social media, or whatever you want to tell them. Whatever. Tell them to F off. I don't know. Whatever. But we'll go middle out this time. So, Michael, you are first.
Not much happening here. I'm heading up to Napa, Sonoma next week and the week after for various meetings and with winemakers and owners of various companies, and that's about it. I'll be on the road here for the next 2 weeks, probably.
Okay, awesome. And how can people find you?
California Wines and Wineries, one word. HTTPS, California Wines and Wineries.
All right, awesome. Nicole?
Well, I'm kind of winding down. I just got back from two rounds of quite a bit of travel. I went spending time in Italy, and then I just got back from co-work, which was, both of them were fantastic. So I'm looking forward to being at home a bit now. And you can find me on Instagram at Nibbling Gypsy and The Somm Scandal.
All right. And Tina?
Wine Studio is going on the road to SommCon in San Diego in November.
Oh, wow.
So I'm going to be on my first panel about San Diego wine. So I'm really excited about that. Yes, so that's going to be neat.
Awesome. And as my own, selfish thing, is there going to be another Wine Studio meetup soon? Because I miss it.
I hope so. I hope so. Yeah, it's just been crazy, absolutely crazy. But if you have any, I don't know, just any place you want to go, let us know. Let me know.
Okay, awesome. It was a great time.
And
it was fun. And Jeff?
Hey, everybody, follow the We Like Drinking show on Instagram and Twitter at We Like Drinking on, what did I say? Instagram and Facebook at We Like Drinking, on Twitter at We Like Drinking 1.
Because of that idiot.
1. And if you're on Facebook, I suggest seeking out our tavern, WeLikeDrinking.com/tavern, or just search for We Like Drinking the Tavern on Facebook. We have a lot of fun in that private group. Subscribe to the show. We Like Drinking. We're coming up on our 200th episode, if you can believe that. Next week should be a doozy. We have Jason Stubblefield and Chris Kern coming on the show from the One Bourbon, One Shard, or One Beer podcast. It should be an absolute disaster. So please check us out.
That is going to be a shipwreck, man.
It's going to be a big shipwreck.
And I am Lori, and you can find me all over social media at Dracaena Wines. And we just released our Cab Franc, our 2016 Cab Franc, and very excited because we just submitted to this year's San Francisco Chronicle. So hoping to get back-to-back double golds. Ooh, so scary. But we will see how we do. We're very excited about the vintage. It really is amazing. And we just brought in our 2018 fruit, which was absolutely incredible. And if you head over to Instagram, you can see Vegas, our winery dog, absolutely approving and loving our fruit. Next month, we will now officially go back to what it was going to be this month before this topic popped in. And it will be our embarrassing wine moments. And it will be November 15th. So hope you all can join. And thank you very much for giving us your ideas tonight. Bye. Thank you. Slancha.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Dracaena Wines podcast. If you have suggestions on what topics you would like us to discuss, please reach out to us on social media. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, Facebook, Snapchat, Google, and Periscope as @Dracaena Wines. I am also on LinkedIn as Lori Hoyt Budd, or email us at dracaenawines.com. If you enjoyed our podcast, please subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcast catcher to help others find us more easily. We are found on all of your favorite aggregators. To subscribe easily to iTunes, go to bit.ly/Dracaena podcast. That's bit.ly/Dracaena podcast. And that's a capital D for Dracaena and capital P for podcast. Please check out our award-winning wines and find out about our wine club at dracaenawines.com. And remember to always pursue your passion. Slancha.